Hello and welcome to A View from the SIP. We are excited to just dive right in this conversation tonight. Um, we thank you all for joining us again tonight. For those that are not speaking, make sure you mute your microphones. And so we're going to get right into it. So on our show last week, someone posted a comment on the page, and one of the things she was saying, while she appreciated the discussion, keep your feelings and emotions in check and look at the data. Ice Cube presented reparations for ADOS, and that affects all Black foundational people. And she also put a long post that I did send to you all, but who wants to respond when she come back and watch episode 2? I'll let you all have at it.
I'm just going to say one thing to her because I just don't argue with people who haven't read and gotten the facts. But tell her I did put in the comment section the link to the contract. And when she review it and find the evidence of reparation, the HR 40, the policies that she's talking about, and also the activists that she said that he consulted, then we can talk. But if you all, anybody who's watching and chiming in, that's the link that's in the comment section. Feel free to take a look. Again, I'll go back to what I said beforehand. It looks like it was created by a 8th grader or 7th grader. It has no foundation to it at all. It definitely doesn't have anything about where is this money going? Who are going to be the people that's going to be able to get the lending that they're claiming? Federal funding. It's just a brief pass of what education should look like, but it doesn't have any merit to it. No tangible evidence. Federal Reserve. Here again, he did ask for reparations. He did, but did we get it? I mean, I didn't. Did you? So if you go all the way down and just read every section, it's missing a whole lot of insight. No detail to it at all. It's just a sketch. So I would be leery of giving anyone that amount of money with a sketch. Just doesn't seem right to me.
Well, Doc, I'll take a swing at it. Secondly, if I could, I want to say, first of all, good evening to the whole crew. Good to see you guys. And we're glad to be back on with you. But just to echo what Carol said, she covered the details of it. But what I want to speak to is the part about, keep your emotions in check. That's what I want to speak to. It's really, strange to me that when we as Black folk really as passionate about something and really get into a full-fledged, which I think a healthy discussion about it, we always told to pipe down, tone it down a little bit. But when everybody else talk about their issues and things that's plaguing their communities, it's okay. So, I think that it's time for us to come with some emotions. It's time for us to come and show folks how passionate we are about these issues that's concerning our communities. Don't tell me to tone it down and keep my emotions in check. Hey, really? I mean, hey, this is what's happening in our community. Is really. I understand, and I guess I somewhat appreciate her chiming in, but if we don't speak up and show some fire for issues that's hurting our communities, then who will? So I think that our emotions and stuff. I think we had a really good discussion about it. I don't think nobody was over the top about it, but we are talking about what we're talking about. Thanks, Doc.
I appreciate that. Who else want to chime in?
Well, since she was talking about, keeping emotions in check, I figured let me just come from this social work counselor perspective. I can speak on that. If my house is on fire, there are a number of triggers that are going to go off in my human body. As for every human being, including her. So if her house is on fire, she's going to feel something in her shanana, in her emotional mind, and she's going to have to tunnel that through her logical mind in order to do something about it. But if she were not, her emotions are there to let her know that something dire is happening and I need to think about what to do immediately. And so, of course, I'm going to agree and say, yes, we got to get our emotions in line with what we're going to do about it. And so, and what we're thinking about it and what we see about it. But I think she said it in terms of minimizing my emotional state about my house being on fire. Because you see, my house is on fire. My people are being attacked. Inequity is happening for my children. My baby, it determines how much food is, it's going to go in my baby's mouth. It's going to affect my children and my grandchildren. It's going to affect my grandmother and my grandfather. And if it were her mother and father being affected that way, in a way that was visible to her, she would be emotionally driven herself. Then she'd have to channel that through her logical mind. But I want to think about, and I'm just going to say this quickly. I want us to think about contempt prior to thorough investigation. Contempt prior to thorough investigation. I love what Carol did. Carol went and read and studied and got the research. That's called contempt prior to thorough investigation. We have to remember, everything I see, there's a part of that thing that I don't even know I don't know. So I'm on the lookout for that so I can appreciate that. I can appreciate what she did with that. And I think she's emotionally driven by making the statement. She might be a fan of Ice Cube. I felt so when Ice Cube did that. I'm like, oh my gosh, what was that? That was my emotional state because, I have a little feeling about Ice Cube. Just saying. Just saying.
We said, you can do it, put your back into it. Anybody else want to address her? And I did send her a message with my number so that if she wants to come on and make a comment, that we will send her the link. And that's for anyone that's watching. If you want to be a part of this conversation, we invite you to be a part of this conversation. And so anyone else? Has anyone anything to say before we move on?
So, yes, I do have something to say. Thank you, Carol, for the detail. I chose specifically not to read this contract for several reasons. First of all, it was written and proposed without me knowing. Did anyone on here know that it was being done? It was being written?
No.
What happened? Okay, I'm back. I froze. Did I freeze?
No.
I'm back.
No,
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we hear you. No, we didn't know it was being done.
Something happened.
We hear you.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, well, as I was saying, I chose not to read it because, like I said, I didn't even know one was a contract for me was being proposed. That's the first thing. So I care not to read it. I just care not to read it. That's just my choice. However, as I stated on last week for those viewers and that viewer who decided to comment, that was not proposed for me. And I was raised by that generation that I spoke of on the last segment because of the generational gap. I was raised by the generation that taught me that if I don't have anything nice to say, don't really say anything at all. And next thing I want to say is that obviously her emotions got the best of her, because it clearly reads emotional. It was something that we said, something that transpired in our dialogue that touched her. And it touched her in the way that she decided to pick. You could tell she decided to pick what she wanted to really discuss. And if I was her, I would have went on and said what it is I really wanted to say. And she didn't do that. So I just want to say to that viewer, continue to view a view from the SIP. And I'm glad that you did enjoy the discussion, although you feel the way that you feel emotionally.
And no one talked about counseling Ice Cube, did they? Because I the beginning of the conversation, no one talked about counseling Ice Cube, did they? Why do y'all think she had these strong feelings? Then we're gonna move on.
I think she had those strong feelings because she was in her feelings, and everything she said wasn't based on facts. The fact that he did, Ice Cube did use his celebrity status to push the bill in California, which I did post that link for you all to read if you ever want to read. It was just for people to study the recommendation of reparation. But you have to remember, we've been asking for reparations since the 1800s, almost, since a while. So he's not the first person that did it. It just seems that it all came enhanced with this contract. So everything looks like coinciding together, but it has no legitimate background. Again, who is going to be on the task force? Who's going to be the lenders? Who are going to be people who signing up to actually receive monies? It's just no merit. Like, again, it's imperative that we do read, folks. And most importantly, we definitely need to investigate before we make a comment. Definitely emotionally, because what he did to me, it was just to confuse the American voter. And I do want somebody to expand a little.
You know, and she don't know that we have been on the ground doing a lot of this work. We're not just talking at the side of our face. We know about what we're talking about, and especially each of our areas of expertise. So, you know, I think that she is a fan of Ice Cube, and she saw that he was able to get a lot of attention real fast. Again, just because it's happening fast and you're getting a lot of attention doesn't mean that it's correct.
Very true. Attention doesn't necessarily mean progress. And this is a fight that's been going on for a very long time. Ice Cube is a friend of mine, and just like anybody else, just like me, when we do a lot of stuff that is good, we can also be checked by parents when we do something that's wrong. And so please check me when I'm wrong. It was just hard for me to make comments about her emotional response to other people's emotions. And that's my take on it.
Yeah, she had some strong comments for us, and I just wanted us to address it. Well, let's move on, you guys, and talk about the election. Whew, this is my third panel for tonight. And so between the panels that I was on, they discussed everything. And one of the things that they talked about, I think it was in Arizona, that they are they are preparing for the day after the election. They are expecting riots and protests. And so they're bringing in extra police to handle that. Do you all think that we will see that here in Mississippi?
No.
No
I
back.
don't think we'll see it in Mississippi.
Well, let me say I don't
I don't
know.
think it would be seen.
Go ahead,
Go
Kurt.
ahead. I don't think we're going to see that here. Like I said, I'm a transplant to Mississippi. I've been here about 8, 9 years, and this is very different from what the last election. The last election here in Mississippi, I saw a lot of Trump yard signs. I saw billboards for Trump, and just going around scouting and doing certain things. I don't see the same fervor for Trump as I seen last time. The Republican areas are pretty quiet now, and regardless of whatever happens, in fact, I met a Republican today. I was talking with him, and he was saying, he's like, I'm a Republican. Um, I like some Democrats, but I'm a Republican. We have to get this current guy out of the White House, out of the White House. This is not my Republican Party. And so I think they're ready for change as well. And so, I just don't expect to see the type of talk that they're talking.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I was about to jump on and say that I don't know if we will see a bunch of that guys here in our state, but certainly around the country, we can prepare for that. I think in some of the major cities, you're going to see some stuff. Maybe where some of these white supremacist groups are really headquartered at, have the largest number of folks. You could possibly see some stuff. I think for sure. I was speaking today at a local barbershop here in Holly Springs, and I was talking to some of the guys about the tensions are going to be high for a few days after the election. And what could make it worse is because uh, Trump is gonna do his dog whistling. He's gonna say some stuff that are gonna try and incite some folk. So I just think it'll be wise for us to stay off the streets. Don't go out and allow ourselves to be confronted and provoked to doing some stuff. So I don't think we'll see, to answer your question, Doc, I don't think we'll see a whole bunch of that here in Mississippi, but we can certainly be prepared to see some of that somewhere around this country.
This is the same state that we had to fight to take down the Confederate flag. And you think that they're not gonna be mad? Y'all don't think we're gonna have any backlash when Trump loses?
Well, I don't know if Representative Falk knows, but there have already been threats, right? We've received threats from activists with the Poor People's Campaign. And so I wouldn't discount it, and I would not, I will keep the people alarmed, but yet making sure that they don't bow down to the fear and intimidation tactics. But it's definitely there, and we don't want to catch people off guard, but yet prepare them for what possibly could be, just in case. Now, you may not see that in Hinds County, you may not see it in predominantly Black counties, but if you go to Jones County, if you go down on the coast, Harrison County, Jackson County, if we even go up to North Mississippi, Alcorn County, Lee County, Corinth. I mean, all of those places up north, it's evident. I mean, it's possibly that the intimidation and threats will be there. So these militia groups, these white supremacy groups, they're out there and they're real. They've been already terrorizing, sending threats. I remember when an individual sent me a text and a message, inbox message around the flag, and they told me it was only 2 ways for me out, right? And so I know that the threats are real, but I didn't let that affect my activism. I kept going, but I do know that I'm not going to tell people that don't expect that here in Mississippi. Yes, expect it here, because when you had individuals um, down in South Mississippi protesting the flag, even in Laurel, I believe that was Laurel, Jones County. I mean, you had militia folks coming out, and they were really with their rifles. They are assault rifles, trying to intimidate the ones that were there, trying to peacefully protest. You had that to happen in Rankin County at the courthouse. So it's there. We can expect it, but don't allow it to affect you from voting. That's what I would say.
Anyone else? So we definitely have to be prepared. So on election day, we are seeing a lot of voter suppression. I went to Raymond today, and the line was long, and I've been seeing this happen all week. What are some of the things that we can do here on the ground to address some of these issues?
One of the things folks need to know what's allowed at the polling sites, right? When it comes to intimidation and threats, you will have folks that's going to ride by with their Trump signs on their cars. You will have some crazy folks that will actually come there and stand across the street from the polling place. But it's even legal for them to be armed on the polling at the polling precinct if they have an enhanced permit, right? So these are laws, representative, that we need you all to work on when you all go back to the state capitol next in January, because this impacts folks that look like us. And we have to be real serious. We have to be real serious about this fight with this open carry law. It's reckless, it's dangerous, it's evil, and it's designed to hurt our community.
Well, Doctor, thank you, Danielle, for that tip. I think that it may be a whole bunch of pieces of legislation that may be introduced as a result of this platform. So thank you guys for all the input. So I'm certainly listening, taking notes of everything that we talk about. But let me add what I want the team to look at currently in this country. There's about 68 million people who have already voted. 68 million. Now, in 2016, there was 138 million total votes. Clinton got about 65 million. Trump got about 62 million. There's 68 million that's already voted. So voter suppression, intimidating folks at the polls is not working. It ain't working. Folks are voting. So I think people are dead set. Grandma used to say they are determined. Their mind is made up that they ain't gonna let nothing turn them around. They are going to the polls. I think we'll do the same thing here in Mississippi. Talked about circuit clerk today. Our numbers here in Marshall County is up. The numbers are up throughout the state. So I think people would try to do some stuff, but this go around so far, according to the numbers, it's not working. People are voting all over the country, and I'm really excited and encouraged to see that.
Well, what we're gonna do when Trump don't want to leave the White House? Because that's exactly what's gonna happen. How are we gonna get him to leave?
I'm going to throw this out here. I'm not going to call out any names. I'm not going to do, but I'm going to just say,
I was going to say that
let's see.
there's some Second Amendment
For
remedies for something
example,
like that.
For example, many times what you see in school systems with children, say I've dealt with bullies before and I've dealt with people who do a lot of bullying. And they're usually, and the pattern has been, I've been in social work good night for about 30 years. So the pattern has been when the rubber meets the road, the bullies usually end up being the real coward in the matter, and they will just scoot off in the end. When confronted and outnumbered, they usually, those people that incited all that fear and all that, I don't think we're going to have what has been purported verbally by, those who, may be a little hesitant about giving up seats. So I'm thinking that we won't have that issue if the people stand up. I think it's a simple matter of the people just going ahead, having the courage to stand up, because once we stand up in number, that minority is going to sit it down. That's the way it's always been. Now, that's just me. You all go ahead.
Anybody else?
Being that he said, oh, I'm sorry.
Hello.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to go back to the to voters about the voting and the polling and what possibly could happen and may happen as far as just being on the ground, as Dr. J said. My whole thing is just encouragement, is to continue to encourage those that you can, when you open your mouth about voting, about your political views or whatever, just continue to encourage. And I think that within itself continues to motivate here, at home. So that's all.
Anybody else want to weigh in on how we want to send?
I would tell folks, let's worry about November 3rd, get past November 3rd. Then after November 3rd, we worry about uh, what's going to happen after November 3rd, because that's a whole different movement that we would need to build to get his butt wherever he needs to be. If he. So we first got to focus on November 3rd. We can't get sides. I think it's a distraction. Even when he first made mention of him not leaving office, it's just a big distraction. And so if we just focus on November 3rd and don't get distracted by his foolishness, I think we'll be okay. And then we'll deal with November 3rd, because there are laws in place. I see someone said legally he can't stay, right? So there are laws in place to deal with him, right? And we'll let the justice system do let the chips fall where they may.
So we
I was just
go ahead.
okay. I was just gonna say, because you mentioned what would we do, right? Was that the question? What would we do if Trump didn't want to leave the White House? In reality, there is no choice. The votes decide if Trump leaves the White House. So that's pretty much all I was going to say, because he could go out the nice way. If he loses, he could go out the nice way, or he could go out with some nice people on both sides of him. So there really is, the votes decide on if he leaves or not.
As they say, they'll be waiting on them at the door.
You about to lose your job. You about to lose your job. Sing it.
You have been fired.
You just online on him.
Okay, why y'all laughing? What did Flavor Flav say with them clocks? Your time is up. So that's what's going on. Flavor.
Yeah. So we have
I don't
about.
know though. But
go ahead, Jermaine.
Come November 3rd, though, those numbers, cardiac arrest is real. So those numbers may just, skyrocket his blood pressure or something. You just never know. I mean, God forbid, but hey, he gotta go.
Bias is here. We appreciate you watching, Miss Bias. We really addressed some of the comments that you said earlier, and I wish that you was here to have that discussion with us. But any comments that you have, definitely post. And we appreciate you watching. And that's what we want with this show. We don't want everybody to agree with us. We like different opinions. I never heard anything from anyone that agreed with me. So we have about 5 days, 6 days left to the election. What do we need to be doing here on the ground to make sure every vote is counted and every voice is heard?
For those that can get out and without compromising their if they have any underlying medical conditions, don't get out. We ask that you do not get out. But if you can get out, hit those doors, door knocking, getting your communities, even if you're just in your neighborhoods, encouraging folks. Take 5 folks to the polls with you. 5 people, not just 5 folks, but 5 people that who are registered to vote but normally don't go to the polls to vote or reluctant about voting. Get those people out to vote. Educate people on what's at stake in this election if they do not get out to vote, and why we must shift the paradigm of the direction of this country on November the 3rd, and the direction of the state of Mississippi on November the 3rd. It's very imperative that this happens this year. We only get one shot, and then we have to wait another 4 years. And so this is it. You don't get a redo. You got to make it happen on November 3rd.
The conscience of this nation is on the ballot. Healthcare is on the ballot. Education is on the ballot. Character is on the ballot. The Black agenda needs to be on the ballot. What you say? Y'all muted. You muted, Danielle.
Seriously, we talk about the Black agenda, but not even our own Black elected officials have a Black agenda, right? And so we want white officials to have a Black agenda, but when we ask our own Black representatives, do they have a Black agenda? They don't have it. So we need to make our own people have a Black agenda first before we can start knocking other folks for not having one. Like, we got to sit down and do our homework. The time is up for just talking Black. We need to see what it is, what Black looks like for you, for us on paper. I mean, for you on paper, we need that. Like, let us show me what is your Black agenda from a Black elected official.
And instead of having them show us the work that we are doing with BMA, we are organized. I'm very excited about what we're doing. And I invite you all to join and be a part of BMA because not only are we organizing, we're going to have our own Black agenda, and we're going to select our own candidates. We're going to go to candidates that are running. And if they agenda don't fall in line with what we have on our paper, we're not voting for them. We're not supporting them. We are actually planning a retreat to map out this plan. And I have a gentleman that's going to pay for 20 people to go to South Carolina to work out this agenda. And so when we hit the ground running in January the 1st, not only do we have a political agenda, but we also have a wealth agenda, because you cannot expect to have and maintain political power without wealth.
I agree with you. I talked to Dr. Allen after our first set this evening, and one of the things that I did not mention, and we really kind of wanted to focus on that, is about, we don't think about our upcoming, but our younger generation that's going to be voting. And one of the ways that I would love to see us kind of strengthen the people that are voting is to strengthen the civics education in school. That's important. We're talking to our age level, but are we dwindling down? Do they really understand why it's important to vote? And that's moving forward and just being forward thinking on that.
Well, while the next person is getting ready to speak, I want to say that I have my class doing a why vote video. And I had a conversation with Anjanu. She called me the other day. She was preparing a statement for she was preparing a video for Mike Espy, and they wanted her to address the young people. And pretty much, after the conversation, I actually text Mike Espy and told him that you need to have a forum with young Black men. And he said that he's about to go on a 60-city tour. Well, in that 60-city tour, you still can make it happen. You can make sure that these young Black men are at the table. People are tired of being talked at, and so they need to be included in the conversation.
So yes, agreeing with I'm sorry.
No, go
Oh,
ahead.
okay. So yes, agreeing with both of you all, with my classes as well, Dr. Carson and Miss Carol. I make sure they have research, they have resources as it relates to the voting process. Anything that pops up in the media where they could go on Facebook or they can chime in via Zoom to learn about the voting process, to learn about the ballot itself. That is something that I integrate within all my courses. Just 2 weeks ago, we did a forum for high schoolers and college students so they could become more familiar with the voting process. And so the goal is not to stop that after November 3rd, because you still have local elections coming up and you have other elections coming up, and for the rest of their lives, they'll be voting on something. So the goal is to keep it going. It's just going to take more than us that's on this call today. It's going to take our friends, their friends, our family members, and everyone else out there who has the capability to reach this young generation to help us with that process.
Hey, Doc, let me jump in and just address the piece about uh, the elected officials having a black agenda. I want to share with the team tonight that if you're on this call, if you're listening, you're watching, and you think that the legislature, the Black Caucus, doesn't have a black agenda, then you're wrong. That's not the case. I've been in office for 8 years, and when we have a strong, solid agenda. But what we're doing tonight plays a big part in that. We are operating and from a standpoint of a super minority population in the legislature. That means that the Republicans outnumber us 3-1. So you can have all the agenda you want. Unless you have numbers in the legislature, it ain't going to happen. Period. That's why the voting in this conversation is so important. So we had an opportunity last year to elect Jim Hood for governor. Well, we didn't do it. We allowed Tate Reeves to take over the governorship of Mississippi. Well, then that pushed the black agenda to the bottom of the list of priorities when we failed to go out and do our job. So here's what I say to us tonight, and we tell our people in our different communities: let's not sit back and fail to do our part. And then when you get folks in office, then you're looking for the black elected officials to save the world. It ain't gonna happen that way. I'm there in the trenches every single day. And when you talk about criminal justice reform, we're on top of that. When you talk about healthcare in the state, we're on top of that. When you talk about equal pay for women doing equal work, we're on top of that. And the list goes on and on and on. But unless you can get in some of these bills, I invite you guys to come over to the Capitol and sit with us and see the type of legislation that we're bringing out. But these pieces of legislation is not even getting out of committee because all of the committees are controlled by Republicans. And if I introduce a bill that comes from this group talking, if the committee chairman do not want that bill to ever come to the floor, he just throws it in the garbage can. It's done. It's nothing legally you can do about it. So how do you change that? Unless we change the numbers, we're not going to be able to get our agenda pushed forward. And I would say finally, my final point would be this. That is why Biden and Harris is so important to what we're trying to get done. Because I think that Joe Biden and Harris has a plan that will include African Americans. And so if we want to start to change to try to get some of the things we want, getting them into the White House is our first step, because we stuck with our governor for the next 3 years or whatever, and the legislature. Thank you, Doc.
I would like to just say, getting Biden and Harris in the White House is not going to solve the problems that we have. Right? They long existed before Trump. They will be existing after Trump. And so, although Biden and Harris have their own share of little, but they're still way better, much better than what's there now, right? We know that we have a devil, a wicked, evil man that's sitting in the White House. But what I would say, when you talk about the Black Caucus and the agenda that the Black Caucus have, let us see it, right? Show us, share it with us, those that are out here on the ground doing the work. We do this work. For me, the Poor People's Campaign, it's 365 days a year for us, right? It's not just election time. Sometimes some people you only see during election season. That's the most time you'll see them in the community. But for me, I want to know what your agenda is. For the Black Caucus, for me, as Mississippi, and as a Mississippian, I would like to see the Black Caucus stand up more, be more vocal, even if you don't have the numbers, right? We need to hear you all's voices. A lot has gone on this year. Very few came out for prison reform. Very few spoke out, if any, on teacher this COVID issue, this pandemic, things that you all should be in front of the cameras talking, raising hell about. You're not doing it. And I love my Black representatives. God knows I do. I got mad love for y'all. But I'm telling you all, we need to hear from you all. January, when we start talking about living wages, we need to hear from you all. When we start talking about issues that affect teachers, we need to hear from you all. When we talk about prison reform, we need to hear from the Black Caucus. We got to hear from you all. Otherwise, you all are non-existent, although you do exist.
What, Doc? We don't want to hold the whole show up talking about the Black Caucus, but I think what you're talking about, Danielle, is already happening. I mean, I don't know what the issue is as to why you feel like maybe the information is not out there. I mean, I don't know. Maybe we'll talk offline and find out what it is that you particularly talking about, and we'll try to do what we can to get you the information. But I think these issues is being addressed. I think our leadership in the Black Caucus have done one amazing job in making sure we get in front of these issues. But I'll be willing to talk to you offline, and we can talk more about that. Thanks, Doc. I don't want to tie the whole show up on that.
I'm going to make sure that I get you two at the table so that we can see how that we can, make this happen. So Ms. Byers has another comment. She said Biden is for immigrants and Harris is for Asian, and we will be pushed further down the chain. What the hell is Trump for? People always say come up and say, just because we are supporting Biden, we're not saying that Biden is perfect, but he's the better choice out of the two that's running.
And that's good. He's for. Wait, let's just be clear. Whoever whatever her name is, it's very good. He's for immigrants. It's very good. And Kamala is for Asians. Like, I mean, what do you? Maybe she didn't say that right. Maybe we're misinterpreting what she's saying. Let me just log on off. Okay.
No. That's what she meant. But my question is, who are we? When she say we, I want to know who are we.
I just think that she's a person trying to agitate the movement. She's a person trying to agitate the movement and stopping us from just saying the facts. That's it. I'm not opposed to hearing what she has to say, because sometimes when you are in a circle with people and you do have a difference of opinion, you have to understand how it affects the majority of people. And so when we look at Trump's policies and the things that he's made, it only helps a majority of the people. But then you have the poor people that are continuing to suffer. And so everything that she's saying is irrelevant. If I'm going to vote, I'm not going to vote on the behalf. I'm going to vote on the behalf of myself. But what type of person would I be if I just vote for me? Right? I'm voting for my sister and my brother. And just right, Mary Gilbert, she's a troll and pushing the wrong agenda. Our agenda is to speak to our constituents on as professionally as we can about why it's important for us to vote. Not the other conversation. Right now, what's at stake is our humanity, the educational system. And for me, and I'm going to come at our heart, I have cancer. And every treatment, I pay $500. That's every treatment. That's once a week. That's more than what I make. So what they're doing to us is criminal. Now, do I think that have we done a good job as Black leaders? No, we've dropped the ball. And I'll show you how, because it's just disadvantaged from our younger youth. They need to see us in action more. They need to be at the table. And please, by all means, when you all are making decisions based for teachers, y'all invite us to the table, because we are direct impact and that affects us 100%. Ms. Byers, I did put your ADOS link in the box. But what does that have to do with this election? Again, that's off topic, and it has literally nothing to do with this election. That's a battle that we've been fighting for years, and that we probably will continue to fight, no matter who's in office. So what does it have to do with the election?
And let me just say this, Carol, trying these folks that want to build other parties, I definitely, let me just tell you something. I take issue with Republican and Democratic Party, but for you folks that want to build parties right at primary time and it's in general election time, I mean, come on now, that's foolish. You have 365 days to build your party and try to lure folks into the party that you think is best, liberating, whatever y'all want to call yourselves. But you waited right until election time and you want folks to have that buy-in. Come on, it's foolish. So whatever ADOS is, I don't even know what the acronyms is. You have to drop the whole name. I don't know. But I'm just saying, I don't have time for foolishness because see, what happens in November, we have to worry about my grandchild that's coming up behind us, my daughter. You know, it's too much at stake here. And I believe everybody has a right to live. So I don't know what your position is with the immigrants, the Asians. I love all people. And it be you Bible-toting folks that's always talking about the immigrants, the Asians, and everybody else. You love Jesus, and until it comes to the immigrants and the Asians. And come on, I don't have time. Okay, Dr. J, take your show
I feel, we are, when she say we as a
I think right now we're putting too much time on this because that's a lot of people like attention. Does that make sense? So it's just like a child in the classroom that keeps saying comments or poking the little girl next to her. They're looking and they're asking for that attention. So why don't we focus our attention on what should actually get done or what should we be doing within these next few days? Because I don't think anyone deserves that much of our power, that much of our attention that we just turn the whole focus on to them. Does that make sense?
Great point.
Because we have an agenda and we have an agenda, right? We have an agenda on this call today for this discussion. So why do we want to give them our time? Are they worth our time? Are they worth our attention? Because I believe everybody on here time is valued, and everybody on here knows what they're here for, what purpose they're here for. So I think we should kind of move towards that.
Well,
that's just my
but
opinion.
you know what?
I just want
Let me just say this. You have people that are leaning, right? They're undecided and they don't know which way to go, right? They clearly don't. Some are leaning towards Trump, some are leaning towards Biden. And so I'm not here to tell anybody who to vote for, right? I can tell you what's at stake, but I'm not here to tell you who to vote for because that's the position because of the position that I hold with the Poor People's Campaign. Now, when I take it off personally, when I remove the Poor People's Campaign, will I vote for Trump? Hell no. So I'm just being clear. Personally, no.
Right. And I think everyone is entitled to their own opinion. I don't disagree with anybody on here. I just want us to make sure we stay focused and don't put all of our energy on a certain comment or a certain people, because then we'll take up half the show focusing a lot of that energy when we could have been talking about something else. Because when it's all said and done, I'm going to vote for who I want to vote for. Danielle, Curtis, Kara, Jay Structure, Stephanie, John, and Dr. J going to vote for who they want to vote for. Now, we might all be voting for the same person. Prayerfully.
But that was Dr. J's guest, though, so that's why she's doing all of that. Dr. J invited her.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Carson. I didn't change the whole. My apologies.
But once you find out that people are trolls, and I've been seeing a lot of that happen during this election cycle, they have planted people on social media, just like they did with the last election, to have these to disrupt conversation and to control the narrative. So we're going to take back our narrative and talk about what we can do these next few days to make sure we have the greatest impact and have the greatest number, November 3rd.
If I could, oh, go ahead.
Doc,
I would like
go
it.
ahead, Stephanie.
Okay. Oh, okay. I was just saying in the next few days leading up to the election, I think an understanding, what I see is there's different levels of ignorance. So we can't solve all that in the next few days. But I have been saying to people, if you don't like the direction in which you're going, you're going to have to change directions. You're not going to get to your destination by changing direction, but if you want to get to your destination, you're going to have to start by changing directions. And I ask people, do you like the direction in which we're going? And if they say no, I'm like, well, you don't have a choice but to begin by changing directions. And then we can make our way to the destination. And I think that's what we're doing here, is that we're changing direction. There are a number of agendas that need to be addressed that have been neglected. So now it's time to change direction, and so that we can begin to strategize to address the myriad of issues. For us, it is us. For somebody else, it's for somebody else. But if the direction we're going in impedes progress for us, for whoever, then you're going to have to change directions. And that's it. I think the next few days, things like that, just give them strong food for thought, get them to the polls, and just understand false promises a week out, that's a lie. You can't make false promises 5 days out.
And Curtis, you had a comment, then you, Faulkner.
Yes. No, I just wanted to ask you guys to talk about all the things that are on the ballot this election for the people that may have missed it last time, some of the other things other than the candidates that are on the ballot.
So it is a multiple, you have maybe 3 or 4 sheets. Of course, the first thing on the ballot is the president election. Then we have Congress. Hopefully you can see it on your screen. We got Bennett Thompson up for re-election. We have Mike Espy running for Senate against Cindy Hingham Hyde Smith. Let me make sure I get her name correct. We also have Miss Dorothy Dot Benford running in, is that District 3 she's running in? And so those are some of the congressional races that are happening. Anybody want to talk about these the judge races? The only one I know on this ballot is Latrice Westbrook, and if she wins, she will make history as the first Black woman to serve on the Mississippi Supreme Court. And I also want to say that Mike Espy has the opportunity to make history. We haven't had a Black senator to represent Mississippi since Hiram Rhodes Revels, who also was the president of Alcorn State University. He actually left, he resigned from the Senate to go and be the president of Alcorn. But that was in 1870. 1870, we haven't had a Black senator to represent us. Now, you want to talk about taxation without representation. Anybody else know any of these people on that's running for the Supreme Court besides Latrice Westbrook? We'll move on to Initiative 65, which is one of the most important things on the ballot. And anybody that wants to add to it, you can definitely chime right in. But you have to vote whether you approve of either 65 or 65A, and then come down and vote for either. Well, only vote for 65. And so if you don't mark both boxes, it will not count. And they do that just so they hope it won't pass. Any comments
As far
on it since
as
I
um, as far as um, the Initiative 65, are you all aware that the Madison's mayor has filed a lawsuit saying that this is unconstitutional to be on the ballot?
because that's how they make a lot of their dollars, arresting black people with marijuana charges, and they
Absolutely,
wanted to continue to use that to disenfranchise people in Madison County. That's why I don't go over there.
absolutely, absolutely.
But also, let's be
And
clear: the big pharma, the pharmaceutical industry has sewn these folks' hands up, and so it's their job to push it because if medical marijuana comes in here, a lot of folks will turn away from medicine. So big pharma is doing their job and they're using their culprits to do it. I mean, so it is what it is. We know what it is, but I know that my mom had ALS and CBD alone, it helped her, right? And because marijuana wasn't legal and she was in that Baptist tradition, she refused to use it to make her condition better. And so if it would have helped her and kept her here for far longer than last year when she passed away, then I'm all for it. And if I want to use marijuana, if it keeps me calm, I'm all for it too, right? So
I think it's a
marijuana
shame where you have to
provides.
compare. Yeah, I think it's a shame where
I'm
you have
just
to
waiting on them
compare
for the
health
surge.
or someone's health to someone going to jail. I think that's not a comparison. My health or getting arrested. There's no comparison.
Rep, wasn't there another initiative on the ballot, historical one that you talked about last
Yes,
time?
Curtis. That's House Concurrent Resolution 47, and that resolution will remove an old Jim Crow law that's been on the books since 1890, and primarily that law was to prevent African Americans from holding statewide office here in Mississippi, and it had on the books. Whereas, take for example, let's use Mike Espy race for example. That's a statewide office. If he would get the popular vote against Highsmith under the current statute, he would also have to get the majority of the House district seats where I serve at, which is 122 districts. And of course, that is controlled by Republicans. So that's not going to happen. So that was a way to keep blacks from being able to hold a statewide office. House Concurrent Resolution 47 removes that from the books. And now it's a straight popular vote. So now, if it's 47 passes, if he should win the majority vote, then he becomes the next congressperson. So it's a really important vote that we need to make, and we need to vote yes for HCR 47.
Right.
See,
And don't forget the flag. We've been working, trying to get this flag changed, and it's finally on the ballot. And the design, here it is, so you can see it. It's one of the last things that's on the ballot. So make sure you vote yes on the new flag for Mississippi.
and,
And
and Doc,
so,
if I could just add some real quick, while I know that we'll be continuing to keep the pedal to the metal as we go down the stretch for November 3rd, again, let's not forget to encourage our people for what they've already done. Okay, let's not talk to them like they're not voting. They are setting records everywhere because they are voting. So you got to come in and say, listen, we thank you for what you're doing. Let's keep on pushing on, keep on keeping on all the way to the finish line. So I think it's important for us to make sure that we encourage folks for having voted already, because normally this doesn't happen. So now that it's happening, instead of saying, let's figure out a way to get folks to the polls, let's first thank them for what they've already done as we continue to encourage them to keep on doing good work. Thanks.
That's good
very
stuff.
good.
Again, I want to remind you about Initiative 47 that's on the ballot. It's very confusing, especially for young voters. So if you can all just constantly explain why it's important to vote yes.
Very good. Very good. So, any other final thoughts as we get ready to close? And I'm going to address that, Carol. Like he said, when the last governor was chosen, well, when Ray Mavis, I think the last time when the legislature actually selected a governor, and they shouldn't have the power to select a governor. And again, all these Mississippi hasn't had a constitution since 1890. They keeping this 1890 constitution in play to disenfranchise us. And instead of us keep going and making all these amendments to change a constitution that is not effective, why don't we just have a constitution convention and draft a new constitution? That's what the Black Caucus should be focused on. That should be at the top of their list. Any other final thoughts before we go to the
Now
announcements?
that should be a part of the Black agenda for Mississippi, rewriting our Constitution here.
Exactly. Any final thoughts from anyone before we go to our announcement?
To get this black agenda, let's get some more black people in elected office to push it through.
That means the people that's on here, we got to step up and
Yes,
run for office.
yes,
Nobody's going
yes.
to come out the sky and say, okay, that's right, Doc. I forgot. Doc have thrown her name in the race, and tell her what you're running for and how we can support. You on mute.
These calls, this mute button. Alderwoman, Ward 1, Byron, Mississippi. So I'll give that information to Dr. Carthen and she can share it with those who don't have it.
Woman. So I'm just encouraging and challenging you all to step out your comfort zone. It's going to take us running for office to actually make change. Like I said, no one's going to come out the sky and save us. We got to save ourselves.
And not to say that other people hadn't done a good job, but I would love to see some knowledgeable people who understand policy, who understands how to network with people in their community that they're serving, actually be in office. People who can honestly speak and have their feet on the ground. I am so tired of seeing the same people in the same seat doing nothing year after year after year after year. So yes, we do need some fresh people in office who honestly understands what needs to happen to move us forward, and that is not afraid of losing power by talking to the people.
Doc, I want to say in my final comments is that this is really encouraging to hear from so many different angles. I really love this panel that you have assembled here, and again, I'm making mental notes all the time, but I want to keep in the forefront of our minds that it's much easier to sit on a panel and say we should have this, that, and the other. It doesn't work like that. It just really doesn't. But does that mean we're not going to work every day? It's not. That means we're not going to fight tooth and nail to get something done to make sure our voice is heard and the voice of our people that we represent. Yes, but I'm telling you, the process is totally different when you're sitting in that building and if you don't have the numbers, you're just talking. And so now, so what we can do, yeah, we can make some noise, and I would love to have all of you guys with us as we push forward to make some noise. But how we change it? The only way we can change it is to not. Let me give you an example. I don't mean to take up too much time, but I'm in office for 8 years. So, well, just take Representative Faulkner out of the office and replace him with one of you guys. Nothing changes. Nothing changes. The numbers don't change. It's still 3. So now you go in my place and you down 3-1, and you talking about all the good things that should happen. We're not moving slow because we don't have ideas. We have a ton of ideas. We got a ton of bright folks speaking ideas, but if you don't have numbers, those ideas is just another good idea. It's just another good idea until we have people. So what I'm saying is let's wait. Let's look at November the 3rd. Let's see the numbers. Let's see how Mike Espy does with Cindy Hyde-Smith. Let's see if Mississippi is really ready to turn from red to purple on its way to blue. Let's really look at that. If Mike Espy comes in with some should win, that means Mississippi is ready for something else totally different. And now we can start going to some of these Republican-held strongholds and unseating them. That's how we get help. Just taking out one Black caucus member to replace it with another one ain't gonna change nothing. And I say this in my community all the time. They think, well, Representative Faulkner ain't doing nothing. Well, you go down there, you can be in the same position because the number doesn't change. The power doesn't change unless you change the numbers in the legislature. So I just want to make sure I put that out there to the team. I really appreciate you guys so much.
Great comment. Great comment. So we need to organize around the Republicans that's in the seats.
But if we are talking, if people are hearing us and know that we're serious, then that builds momentum. And so while we may not have the numbers right now, if we keep talking, if we keep fighting, folks are going to continue. They see that what we're fighting for, it directly impacts them. And so guess what? They're going to join in the fight. So we can't afford to continue to sit quiet. Our legislators can't afford to continue to be quiet. We need you all to be loud, even without the numbers. We totally get it. But people need to know that you're fighting. And the only way that they know that you're fighting for them is if they hear you and then they see you.
Any other final thoughts?
This powered me up because I see that, even as a teacher, and I'm in my classroom in front of my students, my main thought is, if I even want to give up, I'm not going to let my students know that. I'm going to always push forward. Innovation is a necessity when you hold these offices. You have to be able to understand that, look, I can activate this channel over here, this channel over here, and we can pull this power together. But if we're still working in the mindset of, I don't want to help her because she's going to get farther than me, or I don't want to lose my seat, then we're not going to get anywhere. We still need to reach that generation 18 to 35 that we're not reaching. There's no way that you can work in the capacity for people and you're not talking to the people. It does not work like that.
Okay.
Miss Kara, I can say it will be great if everyone who ran for office didn't do it because of the title, didn't do it because they can say, hey, I am a blank, or I am over the blank. It would be great if everyone who ran really did it for the people. And so I think that should be a goal of anyone. Everyone who is sitting in a seat or in an office should challenge themselves not to do it for the name or the title. If they are not doing so, to do it for the people. And once we get on that accord, once we get on that page, the United States will look a whole lot better.
Okay, my final comment is for the viewers and those who will potentially watch the show later. I just want to continue to encourage everyone out there to vote on November the 3rd. Please get out and vote. Yes, your vote matters. Yes, you do have a voice. There is no such thing as, oh, my vote doesn't count. Yes, it does. They may attempt to make it look as if it doesn't, but that's a smoke screen. That's a smoke screen. Blow that smoke screen. Get out and vote. Please be encouraged and know that you have a voice. Those are my final words.
Did we hear from you, Stephanie? I don't want to leave anyone out.
I was just thinking that I'm like Kara, we got to keep pushing. I'm like Representative Faulkner, we got to stay in there, we got to make it happen. I'm like Danielle, we got to learn how to put the foot on the ground. We got to keep the boots on the ground, and we got to be able to connect to the community. And I'm like Rashonda, we've got to educate. We've got to take the risk and run. And if we, it's easy to call somebody a name. The challenge is we got to educate people on the truths of what's happening. And it's going to take a lot of education, because when people come on here, people are viewing, they're taking the time to view it. I think many times that there's a lot of things that we don't know, but we got to know. We gotta be teachable. I'm coming to this platform teachable because I may need to step it up. I may need to step up my game. Therefore, when I step up my game, I'm going to take somebody with me. That's that connection to people. But I got to stay open and stay teachable, and I have to have the courage to vote. Danielle said, "Get prepared." And everyone on this panel talks about moving forward. I can stay in my lane and work my lane and connect in my lane and make a difference in my lane and vote in my lane. Do that I can do, and we just have to have the courage to be able to listen to that which we know. We got to be able to learn about that which we don't know, and we got to be willing to look for that which we don't know, because sometimes people purport things that they think are true, and then we're gonna have to accept the fact that, hey, I may not have known that. And you're gonna get called names, and you're gonna get called troll, because maybe, and you're probably not a troll, you just believe in what you believe in. But I ask you to open your ears and look for the stuff that you may not know, that you don't know, and empower us as a people, empower us as humanity, and get out there and vote for a different direction than the one we're going in.
Curtis,
Um,
power.
I would like to say to everybody, on November 3rd, get out and vote. And beyond November 3rd, get out in your community, make a change, do something for someone else, uh, start a food drive, get some clothes together for people. It's the middle of COVID. People haven't been able to work. There's a lot of people out there hurting. If you can help one person, that's a beautiful thing. But do something for someone else.
Did I miss anybody? All righty. So before we go, we have a few announcements. I will start with you, Danielle.
So this is the flyer for the Mississippi Poor People's Campaign, and it lists what's at stake at for this election if you do not get out to vote. And on here you have, if you don't vote, we the people will lose our right to pandemic, unemployment benefits, health care for all, affordable housing, a living wage, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, criminal justice reform, ending mass incarceration, clean water, fully funded public education, environmental justice, and there's so much more that's at stake. Immigration reform, I don't think that was on there, but definitely we need immigration reform here in this country and in the state of Mississippi. So we ask that you, and we have the power, we, us, the poor and the low wealth, have the power to stop this madness come November 3rd.
Thank you
We're
so
also
much.
asking individuals to get out to the polls to do early absentee vote by absentee ballot if you qualify. On October 31st is the last day to vote by absentee ballot, and that time at your local county clerk's office is from 8 to 5. So we're doing a big push across the state to get those who qualify, that's 65 or older, under a doctor's order for quarantine of COVID, or if you're working on that day, you qualify to vote absentee. So rather than waiting in long lines on election day, it's good to try to stand in line before election day and vote by absentee. And the last day is Saturday, October 31st from 8 to 5 at your local county clerk's office. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next.
So the actually the flyer you see now is really what it says: community capacity building through the lens of environmental and social justice. And the goal is to educate people on different things that's going on within your community. How can we build a community of people? How can we build a community that's socially just? How can we build a community when we're not working together? So we want everyone to participate in this particular forum or seminar. Stephanie B, would you like to add to anything to this? Stephanie?
Uh,
Okay,
yeah,
I'm
Miss
so sorry. In the mute button. Community capacity building through the lenses of environmental and social justice. We want to talk about the issues that serve as barriers. I know people are expecting people to give us something, but or who owes us something. But what about building our communities from the inside out? What do we need to build thriving communities, and what do we need to get our needs met? What barriers do we need to address and knock down in order to build powerful, thriving communities for our children, for their parents, for the teachers and the educators and the students and to cause our communities to thrive? What do we need to do within our community to build representation that will make a difference for us in this country? So we want to talk about all those things, and we're inviting you to this coming mini conference November 13th. So please go to our website and register today, and be a part of making a difference, because we want to come to your town, your house, and your family.
Thank you so much, Miss Carol. You're on mute.
Thank you for having me on this panel. It has really been eye-opening, and it's a pleasure just listening to the many different views. We have a teacher support circle that's we have 3 more visits to that, November the 5th, November the 19th, and December the 3rd. And it's a safe space for Mississippi educators to receive emotional and professional support. We dialogue about many things, especially during COVID. We noticed a rise in the emotional health of teachers. And we definitely just need a safe space for us to talk, because we have direct contact with the students. And in order for them to be healthy, we have to be healthy first. So if you know a teacher, please share, and we welcome you to that safe space. Thank you.
No problem. And Jermaine. You're on mute, Jermaine.
Hello.
Yeah, there you
Okay.
go.
So this flyer is about entertainment and fun. And those of you may know, those of you may not know, I am an advocate and in support of the LGBTQ community. And what this is a brunch. It is entitled a drag brunch, and it's held every first Sunday. Every first Sunday. But this Sunday, it is entitled Divas Live. I am one of the headliners each month for this show. So if you all just want some fun, great food, entertainment, and a great atmosphere, please mask up and come out and enjoy yourself.
Thank you so much. And so I would like to invite you all to listening to BMA Radio Show on Sundays at 7 p.m. with my co-host, Pastor James Hall. He is also my mentor. I'm learning so much. I also invite you all to join BMA's monthly meeting. We meet the first Wednesday at 12 o'clock, and our next meeting is November the 4th at 12 p.m. And we will be talking about setting a meeting so that we can add to this Black agenda that we have. And last but certainly not least, I also have the master class that I do. And my next guest is Dr. Abram Mohammed. And if you haven't heard this man speak, make sure you all tune in. He is a very powerful speaker, and he is a student of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And so, again, thank you all for tuning in to A View from the SIP. The last thing that I want to share is the number that we have to get to. 270. Let me move the ticker off here so you could actually see how these numbers work. And so if whoever gets to 270 with the Electoral College wins. And like we said earlier, winner take all. Whoever gets the majority of the electors in that state gets all of the Electoral College votes. So again, make sure you all go out and vote November 3rd, and we appreciate you all tuning in to A View from the SIP. Thank you all so much for being here and being a part of a great panel, and we'll see you all the same time next week.
To stay informed about what's happening right here in Jackson, Mississippi, keep it locked to A View from the SIP.
Thank you, guys. Good night. Take a slide, find your zone every day.